Welcome to. Oh, that sounded very like game show.
No, I'm obsessed with game show host.
Welcome to this episode of Becoming Fully You with Lou. This is a conversation between me and my coach, Jojo. Jojo isn't a Christian, but I wanted to bring you this conversation because it is so full of gold and it is going to accelerate you in stepping into all that God has put in you for you to be fully you, the person you were always created to be, doing the things He has called you to do. So, strap in, get yourself a nice drink, and let's go.
I'm so excited to have you here today. So, for those of you who don't know, this is Jojo, and I'll let her introduce herself. But just to understand the conversation and the context of this, I discovered Jojo through Instagram, and I was like, this girl has got some sass. So I'm gonna follow her more for funsies than anything else. And then she drew me in. She drew me into her world. In the last year, I've been working in her mastermind of, oh my gosh, I was going to say beauty queen. I was like, that's not what it is.
No, I'm
In
obsessed.
the
No, from now moving forward, the mastermind shall be called Beauty Queen.
beauty queen. There we go. In the Biz Queen Academy, which is now Queen status. If some of you have seen my photographs from the most recent photo shoot that was curated with Jojo, and it was an amazing time. Anyway, I have waffled. Tell me who you are. Who are you? Who are you becoming? And what brings you joy?
Whoa. Okay, you may need to relay those cues back to me.
I get that.
I love this. So my cheeks hurt because just watching you in your element, I'm like, I'm obsessed. I am Jojo, recently more known as Joanna the Baddie. We can get into that, but my name is Jojo. I am a business mentor, but so much more in your purpose and what you care about and who you are as you bring a message or a business out into the world. I've recently been coined the magnetic mentor, which I'm kind of obsessed with. So we're keeping her. Maybe she's who we're becoming. But I really help people to just embrace their whole selves, be who they are out loud, and turn everything that is too much about them, everything that's been made wrong about them, everything they feel like they should hide, and really put it into the spotlight, center stage, so that they can become known for who they actually are. And let that be the reason people want to hire them. And so it's so much deeper than just here's how to make money on the internet. It's so much more about really what you want to bring forward to the world, the mission you have on your heart, the personality you want to bake into your brand. And I work with personal brands, online coaches, business owners that just want to bake so much more of who they actually are into their business model. And so that's me. That's who I am right now. Who I'm becoming, I fear, is different every single day, and that's the point, right? I probably a year ago, what day is it? Oh my God, okay. Lou, this is so weird. It's a year ago today that my dog passed away. R.I.P. Rodney, we love you. But oh my God, I should text my boyfriend. Anyway, but a year ago today, I text into my Heart Led Hotline, which is a free channel that I have, right? I text a quote. I was watching A Complete Unknown, and the reason I know I was watching this and that this was the date is because that was literally 4 minutes after that film ended, my dog passed away. Crazy. But I text in that group, life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself every day. And that quote has stuck with me. It's a quote from who's A Complete Unknown? Bob Dylan. Bob
Yeah.
Dylan said, life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself and things. And in that moment, I was like, holy shitballs. Are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
We can beep it. I'll decide what I'll do afterwards.
Okay. I'll call it shizballs. Holy shizballs. I have been trying to figure out who I am. I've been trying to like fit myself into a box of a certain person, a certain way of operating, a certain type of business, even like on Instagram, everywhere. I'm like, I'm trying to be this version of myself because that's who I think I should be. And when I realized that everything I'd been doing was kind of just for external validation. So it was always like, how are they going to perceive me? How are they going to react to me? What are they going to say about me? And so everything that I did, everything that I was outward facing. And it kind of fried my brain, this quote, because I realized like me feeling lost in who I am and trying to find out isn't the game. Like the game is waking up every single day and deciding who you get to be in any given moment, in any way, shape, or form. Like you don't actually have to have figured yourself out. You get to just wake up and go, who do I want to be today? And then go and try her on for size. And so I think this question of like, who are you becoming? I don't know. And isn't that fabulous? Like, and maybe I'll never know, and maybe tomorrow I'll wake up and be like, I'm this type of person forevermore. But I think the fun of life is experimenting with who you're being, even like what you wear, how you act, what habits and persona you try on today, and letting that kind of be a pulse check to you attaining, and attaining's the wrong word, but you embracing and embodying your whole self, like your fullest expression of self. And you keep the things that you love and you ditch the things that you don't. And then the next day you get to completely change your mind and be a different person. Like that to me is just the art of really becoming, is deciding who you get to be in any given moment. What was the last question?
What brings you joy?
Okay, this, like speaking about self-expression, authenticity, like just being the most audacious version of yourself, that brings me so much joy. Getting to see people like I'm feeling like step into, but it's more than that, like leap into a more confident version. Like watching you, oh my God, be the most coolest legend on your photo shoot, and how you walk into the photo shoot and you're like, oh, I think I'm gonna have a terrible time. And you walk out like, woo! It's like, that brings me so much joy. Oh, but also the wholesome stuff, the things that you don't actually have to go out or leave the house or even get out of your pajamas. You get to hang out with your partner and your dog and cuddle up on the sofa like that. That brings me so much joy. Is like me being an extrovert is funny because I'm such a homebody, especially after lockdown, the big COVID. I really changed the way that I relate to the world.
Mm.
And I'd so much rather hang out on the sofa with my partner at the end of the day with a takeaway and a little cuddle of the dog watching a film than like go out and have dinner at a big fancy restaurant, or even like go on holiday and things like that. It's like me and my partner have really become such home people, and so that brings me so much joy. It's just like being with family, hanging
Mm.
out at home. Um, and doing just like cozy things. So it's
Yeah.
two very opposite ends of the spectrum. I'm like being on stage and like helping people feel the most confident, and you know, I guess kind of like preaching a message and being excited about something. Like that passion brings me joy. And everybody get away from me. I want to be on the sofa in my pajamas. Thank you so much.
I love that. I love that. And I think, and I obviously I am not someone who can easily just slide someone into something, because you know me, I don't like boxes. But it sounds to me like, so on a Myers-Briggs, which I know people don't always like, but there's the extrovert who is, they love being center of attention. They love that kind of thing. And it is directed on them. But then there's also, which I fall into, and I wonder if you do too, the extrovert who is much more about, I am big to make other people big. So I am shy. I want the spotlight on me so that I can grab hold of it and go, and not in a like, "Ugh, get me out the spotlight. Oh my word, not like, what is it in Mary Poppins? Like, I couldn't hand me the mic. But very much like, I am being the fullness of myself, because that brings out the fullness in other people. So I know when we first talked, and you were saying like, where is it you do lead? Where would you just get up and be the first? And I was like, oh, on the dance floor. Like, if I'm at a party and there is tunes playing and people are sat around, not anymore, not on my watch. I mean, I do sometimes, I get that nervous thing and I'm like, oh, no one's dancing and I don't want to be the first. And it doesn't take alcohol at all. I will just get up and go. And I'd rather go with someone because it's more fun to be on the dance floor with other people, right? But I think that whole thing of like, I want to get on the dance floor because I want other people to experience like this is such a good tune, let's get up and dance.
Yeah,
And yeah, it was that I was just thinking about that as you were talking, like perhaps it is actually you are an extrovert, but your power down button needs to be with your partner, with your dog, with your family, because that is the place where you don't need the energy because you can just be with them. You can be, and particularly, I know we're both neurodiverse and that kind of thing of it's not wearing a mask, but then I think we all wear masks all the time, you know, and there's a famous psychologist whose name I won't remember, who talks about the fact that we take off one mask and there's another mask underneath and there's another mask underneath. I think it's really interesting that what you're saying is maybe we get to put on not a mask, but maybe we get to like, and it was making me think of Barbie or Clueless, you know, the wardrobe, like what shall I wear today?
yeah, yeah.
And I was wondering, I mean, I've got a million questions from what you said, but I was wondering, what is the relationship between being authentically you, but then also maybe choosing who you want to be? Do you know what I mean? Does that mean that you present to the world almost chaotic, or is there something that comes through in that is driven by authenticity?
Yeah, I love this question because this is something I have been like really sitting with over the last I'm gonna say over the last year since this like create yourself moment, because I always thought to be authentically me was to stay loyal to whoever I was yesterday, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. And that was authenticity, was like, well, no, I've got to stay tied to whoever I was because that's authenticity. But authenticity is being so in alignment with who you feel you are right now, and less so about your personality, what your personality is. And so when we talk about like, I have a free experience, you know about this, called Unmasked, that's coming so soon, and it's really about taking the mask off of who you think you are, who you're pretending to present yourself to be in the world. And this idea of unmasking yourself is a constant process. Like you said, right? You take a mask off and there's another one underneath. And this means that every time you take the mask off, you've kind of raised yourself to a new level of authenticity. And then you realize, ah, buckets. I've been pretending to be this person now. And then you go, oh, I feel free. And then the next iteration of it comes and you're like, oh no, I've realized I've actually been masking in this area. And so it's an evolving process, and it's you're
Mm.
never going to really feel like I've hit enlightenment, or whatever. And maybe you will, and I'm yet to get there, but there is always going to be this growth and evolution with it. But I think the difference between or yeah, let's go on it. The difference between authenticity and creating yourself is the thing that marries them together is when you are creating yourself, you're not doing it for other people, you're doing it for you. And so
Mm.
you're doing it because it feels in alignment with who you really are. And so when I say I'm creating myself today, do you know what? I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be a morning person. It's like, well, I've told myself for the last 20 years of my life that I'm a night owl. I've told
Mhm.
myself every single day when I wake up at 11 a.m., midday, that I'm just a night owl and that's just who I am. And I'm not a morning person. And then I woke up one day and said, sorry, I'm going to be a morning person. And I woke up at 5 a.m. and then 6 a.m. and then 5 a.m. and then 7 a.m. and then 5. And I realized, oh my God, I've got so much energy in the mornings. This is amazing. And it took me breaking up with the personality trait or
Mm.
I don't even want to say false narrative, but the belief. It's just
Mm.
removing of the old beliefs that maybe don't serve you anymore. I broke up with the belief that I was a night owl and decided to become a morning person, aka trying on the outfit of being a morning person. And I realized actually that feels so authentic to who I am now.
Mm.
That allows me to keep creating different versions of myself, but that kind of get me closer, I guess, to this idea of authenticity. And look, if I want to wake up at 11 a.m., I get to wake up at 11 a.m. Like, sue me. But it allows me to just decide to let go of old habits, patterns, behaviors, identities, personality traits, whatever, that don't actually serve me in where I'm going or who I want to become.
Mm.
And so often, who you want to be, and you said this of like authenticity versus who you want to become, actually anything that you want to become is usually just pointing you to a more authentic path anyway, because it's like if it's in you and you want it, there's something in you that craves it for a reason. This, it's a pull, it's pulling you to it for a reason. It's like I keep crying every single time I see, but they've just run the London Marathon, right? I keep crying every time she's gone black. she's she's in the pitch.
There we go.
I keep crying every single time I see a London Marathon video on my For You page on TikTok. I'm like, scroll London Marathon, bawling my eyes out. And I'm like, that emotion, that pull, that whatever connection there is there, that's showing me something. And
Mm.
look, your gal's about to have to start couch 5K again. Do you know what I mean? Because there's something in that that's like, wait, that feels I feel a connection to that somehow, that actually maybe it is a sign to be like, right, maybe we start running.
Mm.
And it could be that then creates a new pathway of like, oh, let's get back into the gym, or let's do this, or let's do that. And that unlocks another more closer to who you actually are persona, more another layer of self-expression, which gets to be a kind of, I'm going to call it like a thread of authenticity.
Mm.
And so that's the way that I see it, is like it's less about um putting a mask on and pretending to be someone different, and more taking off a mask of something that you've been performing that isn't actually true to who you are. And you'll very quickly know the difference. Like if I decide tomorrow I'm going to wake up and, I don't know, try my hand at sewing, I don't know, try my hand at sewing, and I'm like, this is torture. I literally hate every second of this. Then good, I know. Okay, cool. That's
Mm.
probably not something that I want to keep doing, or a characteristic or a trait or a hobby or whatever that I want to start developing. You'll know very quickly whether it feels authentic or feels right for you or feels like a layer of who you get to become, or whether it's maybe doing it for somebody else or doing it because everyone else is doing it. Like the whole rise of like baking in lockdown, there's a reason I never jumped on that bandwagon. Do you know what I mean? But I think that gets to be the fun part of this, is you get to try on different things and feel into what sticks. And what
Mm.
sticks usually sticks for a reason, and it's because it's like your highest, I say highest, and what I really mean is deepest core
Mm.
self.
Mm. I find this really interesting because I talk to a lot of my clients, and as you know, a lot of my clients have a high need for variety, but they feel guilty about that
Mm,
because all through life, a lot of my clients tend to have fallen in, they were probably in good, gifted, and talented. They were probably the in-between, so they weren't I'm getting a first at uni, but they would have got a 2-1 and they would have worked their bottoms off to get that 2-1. A lot of my clients are neurodiverse, curiosity, they're wondering if perhaps there is something going on there, or at least have children who are. And then also they're women who quite often have grown up in church, and I talk about this. We hear a lot on TikTok about good girl complex, that you just perform and you're a people pleaser and you don't know how to say no. But I think this has an extra layer when you're a Christian, if you've had poor theology, because you become what I've called holy girl complex. And this is where it's not just the people that you're disappointing, it's God.
yeah.
And it's this belief that somehow God is mad at me because I haven't done this, haven't done that, or and to the point of like, I'm not talking about just just faith-based things. God is mad at me because I didn't go to church today because I was tired, or God is mad at me because I only read one verse of the Bible and then got distracted. This is the whole of life. God is get mad at me because I haven't yet, and I'll say this, I've felt this. God is mad at me because I mucked around with boys when I was younger and now I'm not married. But that it can fall into that kind of thing. And so I find it really interesting because I think so many women, and I love, I want to say Cleo, but I think it is Chloe Madana's work on the six basic human needs, because she talks about this need for variety. And I talk a lot about that. My need is I need certain uncertainty, which is certainty and variety are the same thing. Uncertainty, sorry, and variety are the same thing. And so I need a container, but I need flexibility in that. And it was making me think, what is it that it's as if we feel that to be that the peak of womanhood, the peak of adulting, perhaps even, or the peak of success, particularly for a woman, and this isn't new. This is, I remember this in magazines, so this is old in my mind. I mean, 90s magazines. The peak of womanhood is to have a sustainable and successful routine in your life that is marked. I am someone who gets up at this time. I do this. I do this. I have a facial, what is it, morning routine on my face. I do this. I do that. I go for a run. And and I think I see these sort of things and I think they're great. And for a while they'll work. For a while maybe I am, and then for a while I'm not. But I feel like there's so many women who feel like they are, the fact that they want to do that for a while and then change to something else is, I want to say, naughty more than
Yeah.
even bad. It's not becoming of a woman. Or, and I mean, that sounds like, Jane Austen. Do you know what I mean? But this
I
idea,
immediately went to Bridgerton when you said that.
exactly, like this idea that as a woman, change is somehow wrong. And yet, on the other hand, we're meant to constantly personally develop and grow.
Yeah.
And what a conundrum to be caught in as a woman. How unfreeing that is.
Yeah. And well, this is exactly the connection, is freeing to do whatever the hell you want whenever you want to. It's freeing to love one thing and then decide, "Do you know what, I'm going to move over here and love this thing." And it's being allowing that flexible hobby ship in your
I like that.
life, allowing yourself to love something and then fall out of love with it, or try something. I think there is this idea that this freedom, the world, society doesn't want you to have freedom.
Mm.
Of course they don't. It would be carnage. It would be chaos if everybody could just do whatever they wanted, of course.
Mm.
So there is this box that we feel we get put in, and whether we're putting ourselves in the box or society's putting us in the box or someone else's or school systems or whatever, it's like
Mm.
we are constantly being put into boxes, being contained. And that's why I think there is this rise of the untamed woman and like
Mm.
the uncontained, uncaged, all of these kind of narratives are coming out of like, unleash the,
Mm.
crazy legend within. And this sort of narrative is so attractive to us now because we want to kind of break the rules and we want to like unchain ourselves and unshackle ourselves from whatever people told us we should be. But I think especially with your ideal clients, the people that you said you work with, you so eloquently told us who they were. And you're so right with this holy girl complex. By the way, chef's kiss, obsessed with this. But the holy girl complex, if we take what you said about it, the shame cannot be escaped. In
Mm.
in even in like the good girl complex, which let's say is like a layer removed, a layer below that, or a
Mm.
layer above that, I guess, more surface level than holy girl. The good girl complex is like people pleaser. I don't want to be wrong. I don't want people to judge me, da da da. And so I'm gonna like make sure that everybody's happy. That inherently is like, well, when I'm alone in my bedroom, nobody can get me. When I'm
Mm,
just by myself, I'm good because I'm not having to bend over backwards to please people and be liked by this person and show up in this way and whatever. I don't need society to love me, right?
mm,
Holy girl complex. Well, you can't escape your own thoughts
mm,
because God is always listening. God
mm,
is all seeing, right? And so
mm,
because God is everywhere, even when you are at home, in bed, off to sleep, and any thought that comes into your brain, you know that there is like a direct hotline.
mm,
Tell I'm not religious, but I'm loving this energy. Like if God has this hotline to you at all times, you cannot escape the shame you feel when anything happens, whether
mm.
it's to you, in your mind, a thought that pops up in your brain, something that you scroll past on social media by accident. There is shame everywhere. And so, of
Yeah,
course, your way to kind of contain yourself means I don't want to do all of these things that feel like self-expression because I have to remain in my lane. I have to
yeah,
remain in a box, in the very small energy that people told me was where I belong.
yeah, yeah,
And we crave this sense of just bigness, being having more, being bigger. And again, holy girl complex, well, you can't have more because that's greedy, that's
yeah.
selfish. You know, wanting more means you're ungrateful. And it's like, whoa, we can't catch a break. And so, of course, we want to go and do something that just feels a little bit rebellious sometimes.
Yeah.
So it makes so much sense.
Yeah, and I find this fascinating because while we're on the religious vibe, we're going to go with it. Okay,
Yeah,
so
stay here. I love
you know,
it.
this is exactly why I wrote "Here as I Am." I've got one actually here. There we go. My journal.
Yay.
Oh no, because I've got blur on, it doesn't work very well. But this is why I wrote it because what I realized was there was some famous books out in the 90s, and honestly, every Christian I know would have devoured them, and they were kind of all about Victory Over Darkness was one of the names. Now, don't get me wrong, written by a doctor, like doctorate doctor, it's clever stuff and it is good stuff. There's nothing wrong with what he wrote, okay? Absolutely not. As far as I mean, I haven't read it for years, but what I struggled with was one of the main parts of it are what they call the I am statements. So there's the I am statements where Jesus talks about who he is, but there's also the I am statements that are, well, who are you now you're in Christ? And it was meant to be this really freeing experience of like, oh, I am this and I am this and I can do all things through Christ and all these different sort of facets of it. I am free. I'm no longer under condemnation. And I was like, I could have reeled these off, but why am I not believing them? Why are they not affecting my life? And I think what I realized over the years of understanding the brain and looking at coaching and seeing how that works and kind of understanding how God has made our brain was I realized the issue was the fundamental part of my brain, that the schema, I guess, that I had formed in my brain was who he is. And all the time I believe he is a certain he being, God, I mean, God is, let's say, all the time I believe that God is like this, like that, like the other, that is a complete framework for every single other thing I do. So as you said, well, God will be angry with me. I'm sat here and I've just had this random thought. And so what he is I am does is it starts to go, actually, who is he? Like let's reframe because I think there's been some really poor theology, and whether it was poor theology that was manipulative or poor theology that was mistaken, whatever. There was poor theology that made us either elevate ourselves as mini gods that didn't need him or as so low. It was and that is not how God sees us. And so for me, it was let me realign my brain with who he is. And originally it was just called He Is I Am, and that was all we did. We learned who he is. Now, what does that mean about my life? And what I realized was it still wasn't quite clicking. And I was like, why? Why is it not clicking? And it was because what I was doing with He Is I Am was academic in itself. It was learning this is who he is, this is who I am, this is who he is, this is who I am. But what I wasn't doing was I was holistically teaching my body and my brain, this means this. And so it became, he is, I am, so I will. And so I will was action, not just so I will pray about it. It was like, I mean, praying is an action, but it was like, okay, so if he is this, then I can do this. And for me, this unpacking of my brain that over years had believed everything you just described beautifully, of just sitting there thinking, God is so angry with me all the time. I literally, yesterday, I had this moment when I was doing my devotional where God just said, why do you think I'd be mad at you? And I was like, I didn't know I did. And then I looked back at what I'd written and I was like, oh, yeah, that has got a vibe that I think maybe I'm going to be in trouble with you. Yeah, RSD, you have it with God as well. Um, but this idea of actually, the Bible says I can come to you full of it literally says like you can come boldly and oh my brain's now boldly and without blemish, so without fault, into his throne room. I'm like, so I can literally, like, the image I have is like a child. I remember someone famous Christian, don't know who, said something like only a child could burst into the king's throne room and sit on his lap. Like only his child could do that. And for me, it's like, oh yeah, I actually get to do this because you're not angry with me. Yes, there's wisdom. Yes, there is. I'm not just going to go, right, so God's not angry with me. So next week I'm going to break into Barclays Bank and steal everything for it, right? There's wisdom. And we'll go into that in terms of change, because there's something you said about change. But this idea of let me start stepping into, and for me, when you were saying like who I get to be in the morning, that's what I get to do. I get to wake up and say, I get to be the person that God, I believe God created me to be, who is too much probably for some people. And that's okay, because those people are not my people and they need someone who is vastly different to me. And there are Christian coaches out there who are vastly different to me. They can that, and it's freeing because I'm not trying to win everyone now. It's like in who I am, in how God's created me, with a background and a love for theatre and music, and I sing too loud and I speak too loud. And yet, that is the very reason why I stand up in front of church and deliver talks. Like this understanding of unpacking who I am and not being, I think in the past it was like, this is who God created me. Why? Why? Why did you do that, God? Why have you made me this way? Why am I single? Why am I um loud? Why am I currently living in my friend's loft? You know, it was all looking at it as if God somehow was trying to teach me a lesson or berating me. I don't know if that's the right, punishing me kind of thing. Rather than now seeing it from a point of everything's opportunity.
Yeah.
Now, not always good, and that's where discernment and curiosity of and questioning things comes in. I don't take every opportunity that's handed to me, but it's about this. I get to, in the Bible it talks about I get to put on the mind of Christ. I get to put that on. I get to put on this version of me, but also I get to change. And I think something that came out of something you said, I thought, you've got such a high value for growth of
Mm.
like it is really important to grow. And I think this, again, in the Bible it says, that we are changed from one degree to the next. And I love that because degrees, like I'm not very good at maths and failed a lot of things, but I get degrees, like they're small, they're little movements. They're not like I get changed from one, I don't know, it's not like we do a 360.
Yeah.
We get changed little by little by little by little. And then we look back and go, oh, I did a 360. So I have waffled there. I do have another question, but tell me where you're at with what I've just said.
No, I love it because oh my God, there's so much here. I think this where I really want to kind of zoom in on this fact that you said, like, I think God will be mad at me, and kind of having this light bulb of actually, no, this is just a chance for wisdom. This doesn't, he's not berating me.
Mm,
And I think the questioning of like, why have you made me this way? It
mm,
feels even like accusatory, you know, rather
hmm
than it being like inquisitive and
mm,
curiosity driven of like, oh, who am I? Like, why have you made me this way? And I think
mm,
even just asking the question differently, and for anybody listening to this who's kind of thinking, who maybe is in the realm of like, berating themselves or berating a higher source for making their circumstances the way they are. It's like, well, whoa, take a beat, ask the question again, but from a completely different energy of like,
mm,
why have you made me this way? Like, why have you made me this the way? What is this that I can now use as fuel or that I can
mm,
take with me to be more of who I'm meant to become? And this is something we spoke about in Extra. It was a program where we really, the whole kind of taking your too muchness and turning it into your most profitable asset. But in just the personality piece of this that you were speaking on, where you said, you know, I am going to be too much for the wrong person, and I'm like, yeah, good, and you know, and I am louder, or I am more this, or I am more that, and it's like there is a reason you were created in the exact way you were created. There's a
mm,
reason you are who you are. And it isn't, oh, I've like made so many bad decisions that have turned me into this type of person. It's like you are exactly where you are right now. You are exactly who you are right now for a reason. Let's use that and like love all of that and hello fully you, right? But like
mm,
love every piece of that so that you become a match for the right people, the right opportunities for you.
mm,
You feel in much more in alignment with the path that you're actually supposed to be on. And it's like these things that we feel are too much about us, or our personality traits that, or life circumstances that we think is like a bad thing, or like, oh, you know, God did me dirty with that one, or whatever. It's like
mm,
when we have those moments where we feel like we've been wronged in any way, well, what if that became the literal best thing that could ever happen to you because you turned it into your purpose? You turned it into
mm,
part of the path for yourself. Like you said, you know, you're such an incredible speaker. You can get onto any stage really and rock the mic, shall we say. You know, even if you're preaching or you're, you know, doing a talk or you're doing a podcast, it's like you can rock that mic. God made you that way for a reason.
mm,
Like
mm,
that's a calling, that's a purpose, and it gets to be a micro purpose, right? It gets to be part of a bigger master plan for you. But that's a nudge in a direction that maybe someone who was built exactly the same as you, but just with that one slight difference of they were maybe more of an extrovert, introvert than an extrovert.
mm,
Maybe their path is completely different because of that, you know, 1 degree trajectory that goes in a different
mm,
direction, and it takes them in a completely different direction. Like that to me is why every single person on the planet needs to be different, needs to
yeah,
embrace their whole self, needs to be, you know, owning the unique unicornness that they're made of. Is because if you were just the same person as the person next to you, then nothing about what either of you did could be powerful as it could
mm,
actually embraced everything about your whole self. And so I love this conversation, but it's like asking the question, the same question, God, why did you make me this way?
mm,
In a completely different tone, and
yeah,
you get a completely different answer. And so it's literally the difference between accusatory and blame and shame and berating energy to inquisitive, curious, kind of
yeah,
optimistic in a way, or like looking at the realm of possibility instead of focusing on like the critical side
yeah.
of it. You get two completely different answers.
And I think that's the whole when you were saying that, it was reminding me of like the I don't like using these terms, but the system one, system two thinking that we have of like system one being what people would normally say like survival thinking. is almost that, why did you make this way? It's almost from a threat response. Whereas when we're in system two, which is the slow, so it's from thinking fast, thinking slow. When we're in that slower thinking of, okay, I'm inquisitive, God, why? What's this all about? And that is that realm of possibility. When we're in system two, we think differently. We literally use our brain differently. And not only is that where we think with opportunity, possibility, creativity, it actually becomes possibility, opportunity, creativity. It's where we can create from system one survival mode. We've all done it. We've all gone onto ChatGPT, written a post and put it onto Instagram, right? We've all done that quick, I need to post thing. But I think some of my better posts, not the ones that are thought through in a sense of overthought them, but they're the ones where I've allowed myself to be in this place of possibility, and
Yeah.
then the creativity has come.
That's it.
There
It's
was
like they've been
something,
channeled through.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
it. That's where you want to get to with anything you do, really, but especially when it comes to like building your business, creating any sort of art and any sort of
mm,
work in the world, no matter what lane you're in, whether you're a personal brand business owner, coach, creative, musician. It's like if you can channel whatever it is through you to let
mm,
it come out, and that can only really happen when you're in that, like, I always do this because I'm like in the like sweet spot of authentic expression, like being alive and passionate of
mm,
about something, and being audacious enough to like hear the message, feel the message, and
yeah,
share it with the world.
yeah.
That's the trickiest part.
I think something you said, which is a massive part of what I do, and definitely I see it in you as well. What you were talking about different people, we need everyone to be a little bit different. Like, what's that Basement Jaxx song? Like, was it Basement Jaxx or Groove Armada? If everyone looks the same, I don't know. It was like, we get tired of looking at each other. That's the lyric.
Oh, I'll
But
have to listen to that after.
yeah, but the thing that came up for me was this idea of when I was a schools worker, I used to do like my go-to assembly. I had one or two that I could just go into a school and reel off. I didn't have to do. And one of them was on cake, to the point that I got known as Cake Lady. And it was this idea that, okay, if I gave you a bowl of, I know baking is triggering for you, but if
Trauma,
I
I
gave you
can't.
a bowl of flour, a bowl of butter, and a bowl of sugar, you're not gonna sit there and eat each one separately, right? Separately gross. I mean, maybe you could eat sugar, but a whole bowl, even that is like, well, that's gross. There's something about mixing together of those products with some eggs, forgot the eggs, putting them in the oven and allowing that sort of magic to happen of it mixing together and becoming something beautiful. And the point of it was actually we need everyone to be a little bit different because everyone's like a different ingredient. And almost each person covers the other person's weaknesses because I'm not superwoman. I'm aware of my weaknesses that but I'm not held back by my weakness. I'm not labeled or identifying by my weakness. I'm aware of them, and some of them I can are, ones that I might want to go, okay, I'm going to work on that because sometimes I do this and that's unhelpful. Sometimes I do that and that's unhelpful. But then there's also this part of me which is like, there are just always going to be weaknesses in people, but other people, that's their strength. And so for me, I think we're missing something about belonging and community in this world. I
Yeah.
think if you, when I taught self-esteem, we made it simple for young people, and it was like the ABC of self-esteem. So, like acceptance, which is I accept myself, I like myself, I know myself. Belonging, which was I know where I fit, and then well, we called it personal power, but it's choice. So I get to choose. And when those are high, that's high self-esteem. When we feel like in them, and I think at the moment, what I see in pop culture, if you want to call it that, is accept yourself, be yourself, da da da, which is great. We have choice, choose, make your choices, make your choices. But this feeling of belonging, I think, is missing.
Yeah.
I think there is a unauthentic belonging of like, let's take selfies together, but I don't actually know you. This looks cool though. Um, and there's something about community which I don't know what it's going to become for me. But I know it's there. And even last night in a We had Intentional, which is my membership last night, and just even in there, like the conversation, I was like, there's something in this of one person rubbing off on another. And in group coaching, often you get the most breakthroughs through the questions being asked to the other person, not to the ones being asked to you.
Yeah.
Like, but I wondered your thoughts on community, just because obviously having been in your community and also then having the pleasure of doing the photo shoot and actually meeting people in real person in real life. Especially, I mean, I love both of you, you and Chrissy, but especially Daisy, because having been in Australia and being able to meet her over here. And I think there's something that you are able to cultivate as community. And yet you couldn't have put three different people, like we are so different from each other. Even Daisy and Chrissy, they're both PTs, like, but we are so different from each other. Like, and yet somehow you create community. And I wondered like, what's the KFC secret ingredient going on there?
Well, first of all, I'm getting emotional because it's I've been a business owner for 10 years, maybe even more at this point. I think 10 years I've owned my own business. And even like this photo shoot that we did, I came home. I don't know if you saw my TikTok. I think you did. I think you probably,
Yeah.
but afterwards I came home and I was like, wow, I've always felt like a fly on the wall in my own spaces. I've always felt like I'm looking through the window of my communities. I've never felt part of my communities.
Mm,
And I think that's largely been a me thing. It's maybe been like an insecurity thing over the years of like, oh, I don't feel like I'm part of the gang. And even at school, that might have been the case where like I was the popular girl, but I was always like not really the popular girl. I was like the popular girl, but still wanted to go and be the dance girl. And, when the popular girls were kind of teasing the other girls, I'm like, I still felt this moral pull to be like, no, I'm going to go and make sure she's okay. And like, I always felt a little bit separated from a pack. And so even when I built my business and I really knew that I wanted this sense of community, this idea of like bringing people together, and I know there's so much power in it, and we'll talk about it in a second, but to have something that feels like you belong in your community just as much as the other people feel like they belong together
mm.
in the space. I always felt like an outsider looking in, and that photo shoot really, I've hosted retreat. Do you know what I mean? Like even on my retreat, I felt like that. I felt like I'm putting on this thing for other people, and it doesn't feel like it's it doesn't feel like I'm a part of it. It feels like I'm kind of like curating a room for you and I don't get to experience it with you. And so this photo shoot, I mean, there was four of us, five of us, including the photographer. And so it was really intimate, but it was, I think, the first time where I've really genuinely felt like we were in it and that my people cared about experiencing it as a collective, not just she's putting on this thing for us and it's like we're over here and you're over there. And that's what it's kind of felt like in the past. And again, I think that's a me thing. I think it was a leadership problem. I think it was an insecurity problem. And I think when you're talking about a secret, so A, love you for saying that. Thank you so much because it's been hard work to get
Mhm.
there. But I really feel like your leadership has to come first, right? Who you're being has to be we were speaking about like being a light for others or like taking the spotlight to be able to shine it on the path
Mm,
for others. I think that's got to be in there of like who you are being is going to attract a certain type of energy to your space. But I think a huge thing that I've especially embraced this year is allowing myself to be my most self out loud gives permission for other people to do the same. And so it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to resonate with that. Doesn't
mm,
matter if you have opposing viewpoints as the other person in the space, you can coexist because you're both committed to being your most authentic self. You're both committed to self expression. You're both committed to getting what you want from your life and from your space. And so you share those common, not even values, but you share that kind of coding inside of you that means that even if you don't share the same values, and you don't have to, we're all different humans,
Hmm.
but even if you believe one thing or another thing or whatever, you can still coexist in a space. And I remember a couple of years ago, even, there was a couple of people in one of my spaces and they had opposing viewpoints and they couldn't handle it and I couldn't handle it. It was like we'd be on a call and you could sense the tension of like this person, let's say for anonymity, let's say like one person really believes in health at every size and
Mm.
self-love no matter what you look like. And the other person really believes in like get fit, change your life by changing your body. And there was this rub between the
Mm.
two energies, and everybody in the room felt it because the two values contradicted each other,
Yeah.
and it caused like just a weird energy in the space. And I didn't have the leadership skills to call it out and kind of say like we get to have different viewpoints, we get to have different opinions, we get to have different approaches to things, and we all love each other here. And like that's
Mm.
that's a standard I really bake into the culture now of like, and I think it's because of all, like we said, right, why did this happen to me? It's like this happened so that I can inch closer to being able to hold a community of different personalities.
Mm.
Now that I have really shifted my message to be so much more of embracing who you actually are, well, I sure as fluff need to make sure that I am leading by example on that and embracing anybody in that space.
Yeah.
It means that if I have more, and I attract a lot of, funnily enough, introverts. I think because they see the extrovert and they go, I want a piece of that. Like, I want
Yeah.
to know how I can be more of this. Um, but I also, of course, attract a lot of the extroverts. And so there's two different energies already. And so you have some of the like the loud queens and you have some of the more quiet ones. And I think what I've really been able to build is a space where I am so accepting of every single type of energy in a space,
Mm.
because as long as I know that that's you being your highest self, that's you being your most core version of yourself.
Yeah.
If you're being quiet because you're feeling insecure, let's have a conversation and build you into where you want to be. If
Yeah.
you're being loud, and I have this conversation a lot with people and myself, of if you'll be people think that because I am a louder character, I am hiding something and I am overcompensating and I am not confident, and so they're like, she's got to make herself big to stop her internal feeling of being small. And I've always like really been allergic to that narrative. And I'm like, let me prove you wrong. And I'm like, I want to be loud and I want to be over the top and I want to be dramatic and I want that to be like acceptable and not seen as a negative. But again, because I can reflect that in other people who maybe are the louder characters, everybody, hopefully, I love you so much for saying it, but like feels safe to be who they are.
Mm.
That's the point. It's like
Yeah.
if we're talking about brand culture and like how the secret source of that, it's like being accepting of any energy that's in a room and knowing how to hold the different types of energies, and not make anybody feel wrong. That's the key.
Mm.
It's something
Mm.
I've been on the receiving end of in other mentorship spaces of like, being judged and I don't know, just felt isolated or alienated or wrong for being the personality that I am. And it's like, I think that has kind of caused me to never want anybody else to feel like that if I can help it. And so
Yeah.
I've made quite a big shift in the way that I lead so that I create a space that feels safe for everybody to be who they are. Um, and then of
I
course,
think. Oh.
no, go
I
on, keep going.
think it's really interesting when you said about the kind of feeling judged, because I think I don't know, as I said, tend to attract people who are neurodiverse or curious to whether they are, and I think probably you have people that obviously I am and you are, but that people who are neurodivergent, and so we have grown up feeling out of place, just generally, not just rejection sensitivity, just feeling out of place, not understanding quite how society's rules work because they don't make complete sense to us because particularly you and I both ADHD, it's like, well, we have this massive justice part of ourselves and we have this massive I need to understand why this is happening. And I think what that can then create is when you go into maybe something that is more neurotypical, you then feel like you're still catching up with the vibe that everyone else seems to have, kind of thing. But I was thinking when you were talking, there's two instances which I think, just in what you were saying, I was like, these are the two standout things for me with you that I think are where maybe that shift happened. I might be wrong, but certainly outwardly what it looked like. The first one was that I am not your hype girl post because I
Yeah.
think. And I have had this as someone who is extrovert. Sometimes I can attract people who are, you know, people call them energy vampires, don't they? Like people who, as you said, I want a bit of that, but not as in I want to learn from that person to have it from myself, but as in I want to draw from that person. And then that that's difficult to be in because you're then leading a community of people who are trying to be you or suck the life out of you rather than who are being properly inspired and properly encouraged, so encouraged to put courage into people. We become this sort of clone. We're trying to clone ourselves, which then is draining for you whether or not they are trying to. But then the other thing I was thinking, and there's something you laugh, but the that I was gonna say the Alpha Bun moment. It's not Alpha Bun, the Glinda moment.
Yeah.
Both the Tower Bridge in the pink dress and your actual Glinda moment. And the reason why I say that is because children know.
Yeah.
Children know.
Can't
And
hide from a kid.
yeah, and I think, you know, a kid waving at you and asking you if you're a princess, obviously that seems to sound like that's the opposite of children know, because obviously you're not a princess, no offense.
No, she
Not
knew. I
not
was.
by royalty. But that it's the attraction. What she saw was the authenticity of someone confident in who they were
Yeah.
to the point that, well, it must be because you are a princess. It must be because royalty goes through your blood. That's the only way in a child's mind. That's the only way in which you could be. And it's the same with, the princess parties. The reason but they know you're not the person, but they believe it because of the way that you present yourself. And I think there's I definitely feel like, even in working with you for the last year, I've seen that confidence grow of you being able to hold difficult moments like with Rodney, being able to hold the last few months where you've had to make changes that almost seem counter to your business.
Mm,
Um, but also being able to lift a room without lowering yourself.
yeah. That. This, I love you, by the way. Thank you. This is what I was literally, I mean, you said it in better words than I said it in my head right at the beginning of your, but you were speaking about ADHD, vibe checking a room and deciding who you're going to be.
Mm,
The difference that I've really developed is I'm going to be who I am in any given moment, and the room can rise to meet me.
hmm
I'm not going to shrink myself. I'm not going to be somebody I'm not. I'm not going to lower my energy because a room feels like it might not be able to handle the jazz today or, whatever. I am so I've had too many experiences where I have gone into any space, room, energy, whatever, and shrunk myself back down because I felt like I was going to be received badly.
mm, mm,
And I was probably received badly anyway. And so, why am I dulling who I am? Why am I shrinking who I am? Why am I pretending to be a different version of myself? Just for the benefit of other people when it's at such a cost to that authentic self.
mm.
and also to the cost of other people, because they don't get to experience the most magnetic version of you. Like, if I hadn't have had the confidence, courage, expressive pull to go and do that photo shoot on Tower Bridge, that tiny little girly princess probably wouldn't have that memory baked into her brain of like, wow, I saw a princess in London that day. And like, I'm gonna grow up and be confident. And like,
Mm.
she might have walked to school taller that day. You don't know. It might have been something that she holds, and I'm giving myself a lot of credit here, but but it could be, because I remember there's times like that where I've seen somebody like that and I've been like, wow. And
Hmm.
it's completely altered the state that I'm in. It's completely altered the way that I see myself. It's completely altered the way that I see possibilities. And it's like, who are you not to gift that to other people if
Mm.
that's who you are? Now, not everybody has to go and dance on Tower Bridge and do a photo shoot in a pink ball gown. Like, fine, but it helps. No, I'm kidding. But doing things like that, where you are being your most expressed self, you are deciding your state and deciding your vibe, and then letting that aura shine out of you,
Mm.
regardless of the energy of a room. That matters. It's the same thing you do when you're the first one on the dance floor and you're pulling
Mm.
people there. It's You didn't shrink yourself and sit back down on the table and just watch the dance floor, kind of sad that you didn't get to experience it because nobody else was dancing. You said, I'm going to raise the vibe of the room.
Mm.
Said the room is going to meet the temperature that I'm at,
Hmm.
instead of I'm going to lower my temperature to the energy in the space. And that's also going back to our previous point in the kind of culture of a space and like the community that you create. That's what I was doing over and over again, was lowering the vibe to the lowest denominator in the room. And
Mm.
like, not lowered vibe as in like there's a hierarchy, but I mean like on a frequency level. It's like, if somebody was I don't know, like a kind of problem in the space, and I truly believe there's no problems in the space, but when you're
Mm.
seeing there's a problem in the space, instead of like saying, we do not tolerate this kind of behavior in this space, we're up in this realm
Mm.
operating this way. We operate with love, we operate with kindness, we operate with compassion and care and empathy, and this is the way that we do things. And if there's somebody over here that's, making a sly comment in a space, I, even a year, just over a year ago, and I'm pulling directly from this, is what happened over a year ago. Somebody in the space came in and we were all celebrating. We were like, yay, celebrating you, well done, blah, blah, blah. This is amazing. And somebody else said, oh, there's not room for two of us in here. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, that like hurt my heart, because I know it was a joke, but that's like so not the energy that I want in my spaces, especially as a new person coming in. Like, you're excited to be in a
Yeah.
space, you're excited to have found your people and like belong. And immediately that's kind of the dynamic has been altered. And
Mm.
I didn't call it out. And I honestly, that's like something that I've held on to for so long, of like, oh, I wish I'd have called that out in
Mm.
that moment and just said, hey, that's not the way that we like to
Mm.
operate in this space. And I don't know if anything would have changed. I don't know if that would have, fixed anything. I don't know, but what I do know now is that like, I will only tolerate being an example that I want to set for other people, and then constantly raising the bar if I see
Mm.
that the bar is being lowered in any way, because
Yeah.
that's my responsibility. And it's that, I think, even in this all of this conversation that we've been having, it's like taking personal responsibility for the way that you want to experience life. I wasn't doing that up until this year, and
Yeah.
like end of last year. It's like I was letting life happen to me, and like not really taking full ownership and full power. I was letting it be other people's responsibility and hoping things would pan out. And it's like, you can't cross your fingers and hope that life gets good. You've got to go out and make your life what you
Mm.
want it to be. And I think that's the secret. That's the key.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting, that idea of higher, come up to our level, because it could sound like, well, we're up here, like, we only wear pink on Wednesdays. And I think the difference is one, that you are clearly for people, and I think this is something that a lot of my clients struggle with, is this belief that certain behaviors are selfish or even not heart-led. And I think in understanding, no, I'm saying come be here, in like, come step up. I'm not saying this is exclusive. I'm saying I want you to experience the inclusion, this area. And I think for me, you were saying something earlier about when we're in, about, sorry, about heightening the room, about like, and I think as Christian women, we we can struggle to do that, not because we don't have it, but again, because it's not been the done thing. And yet, when I think about the Christian women who I wouldn't, I don't really believe in role models, but I do see inspiration in people, and I'm like, that. Funnily enough, a lot of people I see inspiration in now of saying they're neurodiverse, which, we're all neurodivergent, so,
Curious.
curious. But these women, I mean, some of them must be in their sort of 70s, 80s. I'm not talking about like, flash Instagram Christians. I'm talking about wise women who hold themselves with so much composure, but not a false composure, not a this is how I should be. And they are fire. They are women who stand on truth, who don't shrink back, and yet are not manly in the way they do it. If I don't, I know it's like man, woman, whatever, but that energy is not,
Masculine
it's
energy.
not that masculine energy. It is beautifully compassionate and loving, um, feminine energy, but also strong and fiery and leadership, and can change the room. And I think so many of us women have grown up thinking it's easier. For example, um, I'll tell you something I saw once in Starbucks, and it wanted to make me cry, right? So there was a girl I vaguely knew. I was a youth worker at the time. It was a girl who I think was probably a young youth worker, so maybe 19, 20, so only a bit older than the young people she was meeting with. And she was sat, and she met with another girl, and the girl started saying something to her, and when there was a appropriate pause, she said, I don't feel like there is anything more that I can say, because I've given you what you need to do in this situation. And until you kind of work through that, until you do that, what we're doing right now is gossiping. Like, we're just gossiping about this situation. Like, and it was this almost this, I have, and I know Chrissy, our friend Chrissy, calls them like standards. It was
Mm.
like not boundaries, but it was a standard. It was like, I'm not going to enter into gossip because that's not who I am. But also, I'm not going to sit here and just let it happen in front of me. And I think for many of us as women, we don't, as that I've seen, or maybe I'm just talking about myself, but we allow things to just go because it's scary to stand up and to be courageous and to speak out. And I, you know me, courage has been it's been the theme, I think, of this last year for me. Is actually something which I don't know if I've shared with you. When my mum passed away, she'd written bits of what she wanted said at her funeral over years. She'd just written things, and one of them was that the gift she offered us was courage, that she would ask us to take courage. And it's always stuck with me, this idea of take courage. And I have waited and waited. My mum died, gosh, 18 years maybe it is now. Definitely 15, 16 years, I think. Can't do the maths quickly in my head. I have waited for 15 years for the courage to come. Now,
Mm.
loads of people will tell you, if they knew me and they were meeting you for the first time, no, Lou does loads of brave things. Lou's always, I one, I have ADHD, right? I can mask it and expert like a boss. But two, my version of bravery is, or what they saw as bravery was me doing things I knew I could do.
Mm-hmm. It's safe.
It's safe. It looks like, but it's not for me.
Yeah, it's like it's brave for other people, but for you, it's in your
Yeah.
comfort zone.
Yeah. And that's not to say, oh, woe is me again. We're not going back into that energy, but it was this idea of I've waited for courage to come. And over this last year, have discovered a lot with the work that I've done with you, and just the weird thing of life where once you start looking at, the elephant in the room, but in a good way, once you start looking for something, yellow car theory, you start seeing it everywhere, starts coming through in different, Christian speakers and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, okay. Is this idea that courage doesn't come to those who wait?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not a gift that is bestowed on us. It is something that we rise up into and step into. And a lot of my work, I think on my last day with you in the mastermind, I think I said something like, maybe I'm like the queen of courage for Christian women, whatever, I don't know. But I think this idea of stepping out into something, and so I wanted to kind of land a little bit around there, but also within the context of well, actually, no, first, I wanted to say about that there's also, I think, this courage to let go
Mm-hmm.
of the outcome. And I talked to my group, my intentional group about this, about the fact that we can like we've lost the fun in goal setting, right? And habit track. We're like habit trackers. I must do this. And I love this whole new thing that I think is just starting to slip through about let's experiment again. Let's tweak. Let's look back and let's keep the data. Yes, analyze the data, but let's tweak. I think that's a courageous act to say, I'm going to try something and it might not work this week. I'm gonna, I'm gonna have my, what is it, my free songs, and I'm gonna get up every morning and bounce around and see if it works. And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But it's just, which again doesn't seem courageous, but it is because it's breaking out of that box.
Yeah.
And so I think I wanted to just land on, your thoughts on courage, but also how that relates to what you're doing with Out Loud. And I know like Unmasked is fairly similar in that sense, but what that's about.
Yeah. So, I mean, courage for me is you can't have courage if you're not moving. Like, courage
Mm,
can't exist sat journaling about it. You have to move to be able to conjure up any sort of courage. It's like it can't happen in a safety net of just being sat in it in action. And so I think this idea that you've said about like maybe I can be the courageous queen for Christian women, and it's like, yeah, go move. Yeah,
mm,
yeah.
mm.
Why are we still doing this podcast? Why are you not off going, like move on it? And I think that's that you have to be in motion to have courageousness, courage. Thank you so much. To have courage run through you, right?
Mm,
Courage and audacity to me are really similar. Audacity is the third piece of the art of magnetism that I teach in my spaces. You've got authenticity, you've got aliveness, you've got audacity. Audacity is the willingness to take bold risks. I think courage is like required for audacity, right?
mm,
You have to be courageous enough to say you're going to go for it in the first place. Like that's huge. And I think courage is one of the trickiest little buggers to master, and not even master, but I guess action, because it does invite you to go against a grain.
mm,
It requires you to run against the wind rather than with it. We can follow the status quo, we can do things in line. Again, we're talking about being in a box, being in line, but to go over here, that's courageous to walk away from the pack. It's courageous to decide to be somebody different today and step into, and we've spoken about this a lot over the last year, of like stepping into an unknown, like taking
mm,
a step and having faith that your foot is going to land on a block, that your
mm,
foot is going to land on the ground. And that kind of leap of faith, I guess it feels like when we're being courageous, faith is required if you want
mm,
to be courageous. You have to trust, whether it's the universe, God, yourself. I think yourself is the most important one, really, is like you have to trust that you can hold yourself through
Mm,
whatever comes next. And so that in itself is courage, is to
mm,
trust that whatever happens, you've got yourself. Like you can
mm,
back yourself, you can hold yourself through whatever's going to happen. And so this idea of like courage is and fear and like a lot of people think they need to remove fear to have courage. You know, if I'm brave, it means I don't have fear. It means I'm
mm,
not afraid of it. It's like, no. It means, they say feel the fear and do it anyway. But
mm,
like fear can come with you, and fear's kind of going to help you jump, it's going to help you go. But I think so many people do what you've said you've done, which is just wait for the thing to come, for the thing
mm,
to be present, for it to kind of, slap you around the face and be like, I'm here now, time to
mm,
go. And it's just not gonna nothing is gonna come to you if you're not first taking a step into it. And so anybody listening that's waiting for anything, if you're waiting for anything to come to you, just take a first step and see how hard it hits you. Like it
mm,
will hit you when you're in motion. So many things that we're waiting for will actually happen when we're moving. There's a quote that I'm thinking of. Oh, I can't remember what it is, but I feel like it's so relevant here. I'll have to find it for you and send it afterwards. Um, but then especially when we're talking about out loud and unmasked, this kind of ability to unmask yourself, to be who you are out loud, to claim anything publicly. It's so out loud, for anybody listening who doesn't know, is the 30-day challenge that we've been running in Queen Status with Lou, where we've been doing every single day. We do a face to camera talking head video for Instagram. So we talk to the video, talk to the screen on Instagram or TikTok every single day and talk about things that are alive in us, are true for us, feel really grounded in who we are, that are maybe values led, purpose driven, like something that feels like, oh, I can't not say this to the world.
mm,
Even that in itself is courageous, because so many people would rather say everything that other people are saying in a slightly different way so that they can fact check, so that they know it's right, so that they know no one's going to call them out. They play very safe with the conversations they bring to the world. But if you've got a purpose, a mission, a message that you really want to share, saying that is like, oh no, I'd much rather just say it in my tiny bubble that is my current community, because again, it's safe. I know it will be
mm,
received. Doing that out loud, which is the point of this challenge, right? Doing that publicly declaring something, you have to have this like bold willingness to be seen trying. And like that is we're so allergic to that, right? And so the idea of out loud is just putting in the reps in micro
mm,
ways to prove to yourself that you won't die by having a little bit more courage in your day, by speaking to a camera and sharing something important to you, by
mm,
being seen in micro ways, in micro doses, not having to explain yourself, for the next 8 minutes just to feel like you are valuable. Um, be able to share things, even the smallest things about your day. Some of the challenges were like, share the most mundane part of your day today. And it's like, wait, I'm so boring. It's like, can we literally slay the narrative that you're too boring, that you're too emotional, that you're not smart enough? All of the kind of labels that we put on ourselves, we're kind of breaking down each of those narratives and allowing ourselves to be our whole self-expressed self out loud, our fully
mm.
us self out loud for the rest of the world to receive or not receive, and let that be like a detachment from needing to have that validation to continue showing up for yourself.
Mm.
Did it answer the question? I
I
feel
feel like you did.
neither of us
Uh,
know.
yeah. Um, so as we come in to land at the end, I'd love to ask you, what is the most courageous thing you have done lately for yourself?
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I think the biggest, most courageous thing I feel like I had ever done was burn my six-figure business to the ground and start from zero. When I moved from fitness mindset into more of the business coaching.
Mm.
But that doesn't count because that was so long ago now. And so recently, mm, I mean, does starting TikTok count? I
Yeah,
that for
small
me,
steps.
yeah, like that for me, starting TikTok was something I'd been holding off on for like, I mean, since it came out, like what, 6 years ago, more than that, 7 years ago.
Mm.
I knew I would eat up TikTok. Like I was like, I'm gonna be famous if I get TikTok. And then so I held off on it for so long. I was so terrified of being perceived or seen or judged or to fail, to not live up to the potential that I'd set for myself. And
Mm.
it's so freeing to be able to be on TikTok and have like with love, no real traction, from coming from an account on Instagram that had got like I think at one point I was at 25K followers on Instagram, coast down, dwindles daily. I love that for us. But on TikTok, it's like to sign up to an app and have 0 followers and post videos when you know that nobody knows you or cares about you, and you're actively hiding it from the community that's got the bigger account so that you can
Mm.
express yourself in new ways and let it land where it lands and not need it to get engagement, for me is like one of the most courageous things I've done.
Mm.
um oh,
I
there's
love
so many, but that can be it.
it. Yeah.
What about you? Has anyone asked you?
What the most courageous thing I've done? I wrote about this on, of all places, LinkedIn the other day.
Oh,
Yeah, every now and again I put a post up. I don't know why, because it's like no point doing it once in a while. I, as you know, have been experimenting with Couch to 5K. I don't do it the way it's meant to be done because it's me. I think the most courageous thing I have done this week, I'll go for this week, is on Monday I ran along a main road. Oh, when I say run, I mean jogged in a Couch to 5K way. I think I actually jog fast, slower than I walk. But anyway, for me, and as you know, that's why it's on my courage list, is because it's about it's nothing about running. I don't enjoy jogging, running. I don't think I ever will, and I'm okay with that. Lord might change my mind, but right now, no. For me, it was about publicly being seen to be not, as you said earlier, not being good at something. And so if I'm honest, I live out in the countryside when I'm at my house, and so I could probably go for a couple of hours and maybe not see anyone, or just see like nice old ladies and people who are on rambling who don't really care. I have massively avoided school pickup drop off times where I'm living now because there's several schools around and walk places where people walk their dogs. And I just thought I'm doing it, but I'm hiding, which was never the point. And so yeah, on Monday I went for a run and was on a main road. And you know what? No one no one cares. And even if they do, like I've had, one of the reasons I've had the thing where someone shouts out of the window like, all right, fatty, or whatever, those kind of really cool people who have lots of life to give. And I realized, number one, I've got like dance music but with Bible verses like playing in my ears really loudly.
wait, that's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's AI, but anyway,
That's
that's
so
playing in
you though as
that.
well. Like I love the blend of two things
So,
together.
so I'm like, I'm not doing it for whoever. Like, I'm doing it this way. This is my focus for why I'm doing this. But also, not, I'm not doing it for someone in a car whose life revolves around pulling people down.
Yeah,
Like, the women I work with, it's the last thing they would ever do.
yeah,
Like, they want to build people up. The person they put down is themselves, like not other people, right? And so for me, it was a sign, I think, to myself that courage, and as you said, courage is stepped into it, but in it is movement, and it was, and I think, I've this whole last season I've tried to do things that scare the out of me, not for the point of being scared, but for the point of realizing I have courage.
Yeah.
and I
And
am
knowing that
courageous.
like you can handle that as well. It's like, when you do something that's a little bit scary or requires courage,
Mm.
and you realize, oh, that wasn't the worst thing that's ever happened. Or
Yeah,
oh, actually I can do that. And now you've got a little notch in your belt, or you've got a piece of evidence stacked in
yeah,
favor of
yeah.
our
It's
correct.
like deal or no deal. I've banked it. It's in the bank now, so no one can touch it because it's in the bank. And I think this this for me is this unlearning of, again, this is who I am and this is who I will always be. And also this idea, like, I can't help other people being courageous if I haven't got up-to-date stories in my life of where I am. And that is in my love life, that is in my physical life, that is in my spiritual life. So even in my business, I've put out things more. I've doing out loud, I have gone on and said things that maybe in the past, not for contention's sake, but maybe in the past I'd have gone, I don't want to say that because people might not like it, because different Christians even believe different things. And what if I'm wrong? What if I don't know enough? But actually going into, and again, this is going back to our original conversation about who do you wake up and want to be. If I'm okay with being someone who's still learning, so if you want to tell me I'm wrong, because you actually do have more knowledge, and not just because you have a different opinion, but you do actually have more knowledge. Wow, what an opportunity I get to learn. And I'm like, teachability is so important in our lives. And I think that idea of like, so I think it's what I'm saying there is it's spreading into different parts of my life and having conversations with even people that I really care about, but need to have some conversations and being able to hold both compassion and courage together
Yeah.
so that the conversation isn't harsh, it isn't taken in the wrong way. And I think this is probably the work that I'm stepping into is how with these women is how do we, well, not how do we, but let's be both compassionate and courageous as we build, I love sound like Sesame Street, but as we build community, like, and as we impact community. And I think there are women out there who have got these incredible ideas, incredible dreams, and it feels like they're so far off because life is happening around them all the time. And knowing actually it takes a few courageous steps. I don't need to fill my life, completely flip my life, or become someone who I'm not. I just need to start taking these repeated steps because that's the way momentum works. Like, you've obviously worked in a gym, but you start pushing on something and it's hard, but then suddenly the momentum goes and you're like, wow, I'm going. Even running. I mean, I again don't enjoy it, but like you have to put one foot in front of the other. And Ella Toon, who is on my Couch to 5K, she's like, here we go. And I'm like, like that thing. And it's like suddenly I'm moving faster. I mean, obviously, as it goes on, I start moving slower, but but the momentum of things, it is almost like collapsing time.
Yeah.
Um, but it's not about becoming more busy.
Yeah.
It's
It's
about,
intentional steps.
yeah, yeah. And so that's kind of the work that I do. And for me, I'm just really excited about what God might do through it, what might happen for me through it, and what actually will happen for the world through it. And that sounds delulu, but it's not.
No, you've got to be. And the thing is, like, it's actually not delusional. It's you stepping fully into your power, into your purpose,
Mm,
being intentional about asking for what you want and then moving towards it, like
yeah,
answering the call, I guess,
yeah.
for what you want. And that will have a ripple effect and does have a ripple effect to every single person you meet, interact
Mm,
with, coach, work with, collaborate with. Like every single person is better off for it when you actually step into your light. And I think this is what's make always makes me so emotional when I speak to you, because over the last year you've stepped into that over and over and over again, and like through every iteration, everything that's come your way, you've stepped closer and like deeper into this is what I'm meant to do, this is what I'm here for, this is what I stand for, this is what I want to do. And you've kind of unveiled this clarity in every step, instead of shying away from it. And you could have so easily over the last year, with just so much that's kind of gone down for you. It's like there was so many times when you could have been like, you know what, I think this is a sign to take a step back and just, do this instead, or maybe I should do this, or I'm not sure this is for me. And it's like every iteration of that has been an opening for you instead of a closing of a door.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
and so I'm so proud of who you're becoming. I'm so proud of the fact that you are always fully Lou. And I can't wait to see what's next for you either.
I love that. I know we have landed about 50 million times now, but that's because it's you and me. This might even be a two-parter, but we are going to land now. So it's been amazing to have you. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast, for just sharing like nuggets of wisdom, but in such a kind and in a way that is relatable and not standing from the front and telling people what to do. So thank you. I've absolutely loved having you on here. I'm looking forward to the next meetup.
Yes. Oh, I love you so much. Thank you for having
You.
me.
Bye.